Hello everyone. In this video lecture, we are going to see some of the topics in the module 3 of microcontroller and embedded system subject. In the previous video lecture, we completed embedded system design definitions, history, classifications and major applications and purposes. Also core of the embedded system completed with the memory, sensors, actuators and some of the input output devices. In this today's video lecture, we are going to discuss about communication interfaces. Onboard and external communication interface we are going to discuss in this video lecture. We have to refer textbook Introduction to Embedded System by Shibu KV. Communication interface. Here name itself communication. If you want to communicate with another device, in terms of embedded system I am telling device, if you want to communicate with another device or if you want to communicate with another item in that same device, we need communication interface. Communication interface is essential for communicating with various subsystems of the embedded system and with the external world. This definition is very important. Communication with subsystem of embedded system. Subsystem means in the same system, in one kit we have lot of small items with another item. One item is communicated with another item in the same kit. At that time there is a communication required. Also that is happened by communication interface, that is called onboard communication interface. In the same board, in the single board, one small kit, we are going to communicate each other. But communication to the external world or with the external world, if you are going to communicate with external world, that means another device. One device is communicated with another device. That heading is called external communication. That method is called external communication or product level communication. We are going to see this both thing in detail. Let us start with the device board or onboard communication. Device board or onboard communication interface means communication channel which interconnects the various components within the embedded product. In one embedded product, one kit, within the embedded product there is a communication that is called onboard. Example, we have different types of communication method, onboard communication methods. I2C, this is pronunciation is actually I2C, SPI, UART, one wire, parallel bus, etc. are different types of communication methods or interfaces. We are going to see each one in detail. Let us start with I2C or I2C. I2C means integrated circuit. Integrated circuit bus I2C is synchronous, bidirectional, half duplex, two-wire serial interface bus. This is the exact definition for I2C. It is a synchronous, both devices that connected synchronously. One device is sending means other device should respond, that is a synchronous. Synchronous, bidirectional, half duplex. Only one side communication is there, one direction communication at a time. At a time only one side communication, one way communication. But both side communicate, bidirectionally is there, but half duplex means one at a time we are going to communicate one side. It having two wire serial interface bus. Two wires are there. What are the two wires? SCL and STA are the two wires. You can see this diagram, SCL and STA. SCL means serial clock. STA means serial data. Here we have device, that is a master, and here we have two device, that is a slave. Master and slaves. We just remember that concept, master slave. Master can give commands. Slave can accept that command and can only respond to that command, but slave can't give any commands to master. Here master can give commands. That is the concept of master and slave. Here SCL is the serial clock. Serial clock is used for synchronous purpose. If you want to synchronize these devices, we have to use clock signals. Then if you want to transfer data, then STA, serial data line, we are going to use here. So these are the two lines we are going to use. Now master can send, first master should activate this serial clock, because for synchronous communication master should activate the serial clock, then data can be sent through STA to slave 1 or slave 2. Here any number of slave we can attach to this, any number of master also we can attach to this. That is the advantage here. Any master is possible, any number of slaves also possible. Second type of method, second type onboard communication is serial peripheral interface, SPI. Here you can see master, same concept is the master concept and slave concept. But what is the difference between that previous one and this one? We will see that. The serial peripheral interface bus, SPI, full form is serial peripheral interface bus, is a synchronous. Here this is also synchronous. Can you tell me what for synchronous which line is required? Serial clock. Bidirectional, both direction there is a communication. Full duplex, at a time we can communicate both sides. One side here communicating means that side also message is coming. That is a at a time we communication is a both side. That is a full duplex. 4 wire serial interface bus. In the previous case we have 2 wire. Here 4 wire. What are the 4 wires? We will see that. The concept of SPI is introduced by Motorola. Motorola is a company which introduced this SPI concept. SPI is a single master multi-slave system. Single master is there, multi-slave is there. Can you tell me what is the previous concept? Many masters. Many master also possible, many slave also possible. But here single master, many slave. But here master you can attach another 4 also or 5 also, but at a time only one master is active. That is a concept. Many masters are there, but at a time only one master is active. But in the slave part, at a time many slaves are active. It is possible to have system where more than one SPI device can be master, provided that condition only, that is one condition is there for more than one master to active. What is the condition? One master device is active at a time given point of time is satisfied. Only one master is active. Many masters we can go for, but only at a time only one master is active. That is the condition. But in the previous I2C, that is I square C, many masters can work at a time. That won't make any difference. That is no problem in the previous case, but here that is the problem. Only one master active at a time in this case. SPI, serial peripheral bus, that is serial peripheral interface bus, SPI requires 4 signal lines for communication. They are 4 signal lines are there. What are the 4 signal lines? First one, master out, slave in. This one, master out, slave in. You can see this in the diagram, master out, slave in. MOSI. Full form of MOSI is master out, slave in. Signal line carrying the data from master to slave device. Here we have master, here we have slave. One of the condition is only one master is active at a time, but many slaves are active at a time. But thing is, signal line carrying the data from master to slave. Here master to slave signal is carrying through that line. That line is called master out, slave in. Name itself specify that, master out and slave in. Output of the master is given to input of the slave. Another name is there for this, that is slave input, slave data in, like this. Second line is master in, slave out. Second line in the SPI bus is master in, slave out. Name itself specify that, master in, that means input to the master, slave out, that is output from the slave. That short name is MISO. You can see in the diagram here we have MISO line. Signal line carrying data from slave to master device. That is another name is slave output. Third line, first one is MOSI, the second one is MISO, third line is serial clock. Why we are using serial clock? Because it is also a synchronous device. For that purpose we have to use serial clock. Signal line carrying the clock signal. In order to synchronize the device, we need clock signal. If that device is asynchronous, then clock signal is not required. Fourth line, slave select. Here concept is one master, many slaves. So we have to select out of many slaves which are all the slaves is connected to master. Now that we have to find out. So slave select line is there. Where is that line? You can see here. This is the line, slave select line. Here SS1 is there, SS2 is there. Now we have here two slaves. So SS1 and SS2 are the two name given. If there is any 10 or 12 slaves, then here lot of names are there, SS3, SS4 till SS10, like this. See, what is the SS? Signal line for slave device select. In order to select slave, we are using that line, slave select. It is a active low signal. Can you tell me what is the active low? Active low means that particular device you want to select means that line should be 0. Normally if you are going to select anything means line is 1, off means 0, on means 1. That is a normal concept. But active low concept is 0 means on, 1 means off. That concept is called active low concept. 0 is on, 1 is off. So 0 we have to given that slave 2 means that device is on now. 1 is given to slave 1 means that device is off now. Master device is responsible for generating the clock signal. That is the job of the master. For synchronizing purpose, master should synchronize with slave. So clock signal is generated by master itself. Master device selects the required slave device by asserting the corresponding slave device low. That is active low means a concept I already told. If you are going to send a low signal or 0 to particular slave, that is on, and that 0 or 1 everything sent by master, because he is a complete controller. That means complete control is given to master. He will control everything. So he will send which device should be on. Another device in the onboard communication is UART, Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. You know this UART generally. You heard this name, but what is the full form? Universal Asynchronous Receiver Transmitter. Based on the data transmission is asynchronous form of serial data transmission. It is not parallel data, it is a serial data transmission, but it is asynchronous. So clock signal is not required. It is asynchronous communication. Name itself, universal asynchronous. UART based serial data transmission doesn't require a clock signal. It doesn't require clock signal. Why? Now that is a answer question. Why? Previous we see in previous line asynchronous. So we don't need clock signal. Clock signal to synchronize the transmitting and receiving transmit. That means no need to use clock signal to synchronize, because this is the asynchronous concept. Instead it release upon the predefined agreement between transmitting device and receiving. There is a two devices, transmitter device and receiver device. So there is a agreement. Transmitter will send that data to receiver. Receiver will receive that data. There is a agreement between transmitter and receiver. The start and stop, when that communication started or transmitting started, and when that transmitting stopped, everything is depend on one of the line. That is, start and stop of communication is indicated through inserting special bit. We have to insert one special bit in the data stream. If we want to transfer data, beginning of the data we have to use start signal. That means that start data. We have to add one extra data. That means that data transfer is started. At the end of the data stream, we have to add another bit to stop that data. That is, data is ended. While sending a byte of data, a start bit, that is a small one bit, start bit is added first, and then stop bit is added at the end of the data stream. So middle we have data, first bit is start bit, last bit is end bit, and between that we have data. Each data we are going to send in the same format to receiver. This will generate in transmitter, and then it is sent to receiver. But while sending, there is some protection is required. For that purpose, we are using one of the method protection or security required, parity method. If parity is enabled for communication, the UART of the transmitting device adds a parity bit, and the UART of the receiving device calculates the parity of this bit received and compares it with the received parity bit for error checking. Mainly, this is used for security purpose. Parity thing is used for security purpose. Here you can see one of the device, that is transmitter side. If consider this is a receiver side, transmitter will transmit the data to receiver. At that time, whichever data transmitted by the transmitter, that should come to receiver also. If there is any misplace happen in between transmitter and receiver, that may lead to some problem or loss of data. In order to avoid that, we have to use this method, parity bit. This is very easier method for security purpose. So they used that parity bit method in the UART concept. Here transmitter, here receiver, we are going to add parity bit here in the transmitter side with that data and sending here, and receiver side we are going to make some calculation, is that data is original or any misplaced data. If that parity bit is proper, then that data is also original data. If there is any problem, then that parity bit will change. Then only transmitter will identify that some misplace have happened in between transmitter and receiver. Like this, we are going to secure our transmission method. Another onboard communication is one-wire interface. One-wire interface is an asynchronous half-duplex communication protocol. This is developed by Maxim Dallas Semiconductor. This is the one company name. But this is asynchronous. Again, if asynchronous is there any clock signal required? No, clock signal is not required for synchronous purpose. It is asynchronous. One wire, why we told one wire, that I will give reason for that. It is a half duplex. Half duplex means only one side communication is there at a time. One side communication is there at a time. We are using protocol developed by one of the company. It makes use of only single line. That's why this is called one wire. That one wire name is DQ. You can see this diagram. Here DQ is here. This line. So this DQ, only one line is there for communication purpose. Each device, each slave is connected to that single line. That's why this entire concept is called one wire. That one wire is DQ. DQ for communication and follows the master slave communication model. Again we have master and slave concept. Master gives command to the slaves and slave can only respond to that command sent by master, but slave can't send any command to master. They can only respond to command from the master. One of the key feature of one wire bus is that it allows power to be sent along with signal wire as well. You can see that one wire we means only one wire is there here, that is a DQ. In this place you can see one supply voltage VCC. We are giving supply voltage, we are supplying that voltage through that line, DQ line. That is the meaning of this line. Every one wire device contains a globally unique 64-bit identification number stored within it. Every device means here each slave device and each master device, there is a unique ID is there, unique ID for each device. That ID is 64-bit length. The unique ID identification number can be used for addressing individual device present on the bus. In case there is a multiple slaves connected to the one wire bus. Here that one wire is there, we already told that is a one wire means this is DQ. We are going to give supply for that only one wire, that is a DQ only, we have supply that is connected to all the devices. Your master also it is connected, all slaves also connected to DQ. How we are going to recognize that particular device? That recognition by using one ID. That ID is 64-bit. 64-bit ID. Here each slave device having 64-bit ID. Master also having 64-bit ID. The identifier has three parts. That 64-bit ID is divided into three parts. One is 8-bit. 8-bit is one part, that is family code. It contains family code. Device, which device family, that is a family code. Then next 48-bit serial number. Serial number of the particular device is 48-bit. Next 8-bit is CRC. CRC means cyclic redundancy check. It is also one of the method used for security of data. In the previous slide we seen about parity. Here this 8-bit is for cyclic redundancy check. This is used for again checking the or for securing the data. So 8-bit, 48-bit, again 8-bit. This is your 64-bit identification number division. Each device having this 64-bit ID. Based on that we are going to recognize that device. Another device we have parallel interface. Host processor of the embedded system contain a parallel bus, and device which supports parallel bus can directly connect to the bus system. The communication through the parallel bus is controlled by control signal interface between device and host. Here we have host. You can see this diagram. Here we have host. Here peripheral device is there. Host will connect peripheral device. and there is a parallel communication. Here we have read signal also there, write signal also there. We can perform both operations, read and write parallelly. That data line is here, that is a data bus, and here we have address. If we have more than one peripheral device, so which peripheral device we have to make active or which peripheral device we have to use at a time, that is decided by address. Now if you are having 10 peripheral devices, out of that you want to use sixth one, then that sixth one peripheral device address you can send it through address bus by the host, and that is sent to address decoder. Address decoder will select that particular device. Here we have each device, we have one small thing, that is CS. CS means chip select. In order to select that device, that chip select should be on, and that chip select is on only by using this address. So here address is sent by host through address bus. Control signals are read and write. We can perform read and write to peripheral bus. Either peripheral bus can read anything from host or write anything to host. That is both parallelly, we can do that. Here thing is, the control signal for a communication includes read write signal and device select signal. The device normally contains the device select line. Device select line is here I told chip select, and the device becomes active only when the line is asserted by the host processor. Only when host is sent that address of the particular peripheral device to address decoder circuit, then that address decoder circuit will switch on that particular device. Then only we can communicate host and that particular peripheral device. The direction of the data transfer can be controlled through the control signal line for read and write. Only the host processor has control over the read and write control signal. Host having complete rights to read and write. He can give command, host can give command. The device is normally memory mapped to the host processor and range of address is assigned to it. An address decoder circuit is used to generate the chip select signal for the device. Here actually we have one device that is called address decoder. Address here from host, address will send to address decoder. Here some operation will occur, then depend on that operation particular device will asserted, that means switch on by using CS signal. CS means chip select signal. That chip select line is there in all the peripheral devices. This is your parallel interface communication using parallel method. Parallelly we have read and write signal, and parallelly we can switch on the devices by the host. Host is a main commander. Another second type is first type we already seen, onboard communication interface. Onboard communication interface, that is a device level. Next we have product level. Product level communication interface is also called external communication interface. It is defined as, it is responsible for data transfer between the embedded system and other device or modules. One device is communicated with other device by using these external communications. Many external communications are there, but particularly we are dividing into two parts, wired and wireless. Wired media and wireless media. What are the wired medias? You aware of this RS-232, RS-42, 422 and RS-485, like this USB, you know this USB, Ethernet, IEEE 1394, parallel port, like this we have wired communications. Wireless communications are infrared, Bluetooth, wireless LAN, that is called Wi-Fi, then GPRS, radio frequency waves. These are the wireless communications. We do not using any wire for communication purpose in the wireless communication, but here we are using some wire. some type of wire we are using for communication between one device and another device. First we are going for RS-232. Here RS-232C is a legacy full duplex wired asynchronous serial communication interface. It is a asynchronous device, also serial communication device. Full duplex communication will happen both sides at a time. RS-232 use EIA. There is a one standard format for communication purpose, that is a EIA standard for bit transmission, that is used in RS-232. That standard is used in RS-232. Their standard name is EIA. As a EIA standard, a logic 0 is represented with voltage between +3 and +25. That means between +3 and +25, any voltage is represented by 0, and between -3 and -25, any voltage is represented by 1. As per EIA standard, logic 0 is known as space and logic 1 known as mark. Logic 0 between +3 to +25, that is known as space. Logic 1 between -3 to -25, that is told as mark. RS-232 interface defines various handshaking and control signal for communication apart from the transmit and receive signal lines for data communication. Transmission communication is there, receiver also there. One side we have transmitter, another side we have receiver. That transmitting signal is there, receiving signal is there. Apart from that, we are using some other signals that is called handshaking signals. In order to start that communication, we need some of the basic signal transmission, that is called handshaking signals. If that handshaking signal is over, then only there is a bonding between, there is a connection between your transmitter and receiver. After that we can transmit and we can receive anything. That handshaking signal is very important in the case of wired and wireless communication, mainly in RS-232. RS-232 support two different types of connectors. We have two different types. One is DB9, another one is DB25. You can see this diagram here, DB9. Why DB9 name? Here we have 9 separate pins are there, different pins. And DB25, here different 25 pins are there. Here you can see 1 to 5 pins are there, and then 6 to 9 another set of pins are there. In this DB25, 1 to 13 pin and 14 to 25, 2 lines. So this is DB9 and this is DB25. RS-232 is a point-to-point communication, one point to another point, direct point communication. It is a wired communication, one point to another point interface, and device involved in this RS-232 communication are data terminal equipment, that is called DTE, and data communication equipment, DCE. We are using two devices, one is DTE and DCE for communication purpose. If, this is another important point, if no data flow control is required, there is a no data flow control is required means only TXT, transmission side data, and receiver side data. TXT and RXT signal lines and ground line are required for data transmission and reception. There is no data flow control is required means only these three lines. One is TXT, RXT, and another one is ground line. Only 3 lines are required for communication purpose. If data flow control is required, that is another point. If that control is required, data flow control is required means with these 3 lines we have to attach some other lines also. That is, for serial transmission, various control lines we connected are used appropriately. That means we are going to use some other lines. Instead of this, Anyway, we have to use TXT, RXT and ground. With this we are going to use some other lines also if data flow control is required. Another last point is the request to send and clear to send. These are the two things or two signals to coordinate the communication between DTE and DCE. I told in the first line, DTE means data terminal equipment. That is one device in RS-232. Another device is data communication equipment, DCE. In order to communicate between DTE and DCE, there is a two signals called RTS, request to send, and clear to send. In order to coordination between these two devices, we need these two signals. Another device is USB device. USB device is a wired high-speed serial bus for data communication. It is high speed but wired. We are discussing about wired communication itself, but it is a high speed serial data communication. The USB communication system follows a star topology. We have different types of knee topology, star topology, like this. But USB uses this star topology with a USB host. Just see this diagram. With USB host, here we have USB host at the center and one or more USB peripheral device or USB host connected to it. We have USB host in the center and other all are USB peripherals. USB full form is Universal Serial Bus. And all the USB communication will happen in packet format. You can see this, USB transmit all the datas in the packet format. Datas are initially we are going to make, that is initially that is divided into packet by packet, and each time there is a entire packet will send to transmitter. Sender will send entire packet to transmitter. Like that we have different many packets in the sender side, and that each packet will send, entire data is divided in packets and then it is sent to receiver. The USB host contain a host controller which is responsible for controlling the data communication, including establish connectivity with USB slaves device, packetizing and formatting the data. There is a host controller. Host controller job is to control USB slaves and making packets and sending packets. These are the things, is completely responsibility is given to here this host controller. There are different standards for implementing the USB host control interface. There are different standards. One of the standard name is OHCI, Open Host Control Interface. Many of the USB devices we seen OHCI, but full form is this one, Open Host Control Interface, and UHCI means Universal Host Control Interface. These are the two standards for implementing the host control interface. Two connection line, one is ground line, another one is power line. Both power line and ground line is of the USB interface are dedicated for carrying the power. In order to carry power, we need power line and ground line, two wire line, two connection are required. Each USB device contain a product ID, PID, and vendor ID, that is a manufacturer ID. The PID and VID are embedded into the USB chip by the USB device manufacturer. Whoever going to manufacture or produce USB, they are giving two IDs. One is product ID, that particular product ID. Another one is manufacturer, that is vendor ID. That two ID names or numbers are inserted inside that your USB. USB support for different types of data transfer. Different types of data transfer. One is control, bulk, isochronous, interrupt. When we are going to use control, that is given here, used by the USB system software to query, configure and issue command to the USB device. Only one query is there or anything, or just one line thing is there, that is configuration or issue commands. That thing is control data transfer. Okay, control method. What is the bulk method? Transferring the data to printer. If you want to transfer any data to printer, then we are using this type of data transfer, that is bulk. Then isochronous. This is a very important word, isochronous. All the streaming devices like audio devices and medical equipment, see this, medical equipments for data collection make use of isochronous transfer. This method is used by audio devices and medical equipments, and bulk method used by some printers. And another one we have interrupt method, that is used by mouse, keyboard or any other interrupt. In order to transmit the data, we are using interrupt transfer. So there are 4 methods or 4 data transfer types: control, bulk, isochronous, interrupt. IEEE is another wired communication, IEEE 1394. It is also known as high performance serial bus. Another name for this IEEE 1394 is high performance serial bus. 1394 supports peer-to-peer connection and point-to-multi-point, point-to-multi-point communication. One point is there, one side one person, another side many persons. That is called point-to-multi-point communication. 1394 supports peer-to-peer connection and point-to-multi-point communication, allowing 63 devices to be connected on the bus in a knee topology. Just observe, in the previous method we used star topology. Here we are using IEEE format, we are using knee topology. IEEE 1394 device, we are using knee topology. Like this, we have different types of topologies we are using in one devices. 1394 is wired serial interface and it can support a cable length of up to 15 feet of interconnection. We have this is wired connection, that you know that. What is the size or length of the wire? 15 feet maximum. Okay, for interconnection we can use 15 feet wire. IEEE 1394 uses different data transfer. It increases the noise immunity if different data transfer, and the interface cable supports 3 types of connectors. I'll read it again. IEEE 1394 uses different data transfer, and interface cable support 3 types of connectors, namely 4-pin, 6-pin and 9-pin. 3 types of connectors is there in IEEE 1394, 4-pin, 6-pin and 9-pin. Like RS-232 we seen some DB9 and DB25, like that we have 4-pin, 6-pin and 9-pin connectors. The 6 and 9-pin connectors carry power also to support external device. 1394 is popular communication interface for connecting embedded device like a digital camera. These are the applications of IEEE 1394. Camera, we are going to use that camcorder and scanners, and some desktop computers also we are using that for data transfer and storage purpose. And this is wired. You have to note that wired communication. 1394 hardware implementation is much costlier than USB. That's why we are going to USB itself. We are not going for IEEE 1394 because it is much costlier than USB. So we are concentrating everywhere, we are using USB implementation itself. Another In external communication, we have discussed about two types. One is wired and wireless. Wired is already completed. We have 3 to 4 types, and now we are going for wireless communication here. These are the different wireless communication in the external communication method. That is one infrared, Bluetooth communication, Wi-Fi, Zigbee and GPRS. We will see that one by one. Infrared. Infrared is a certain region in a light spectrum, and there is a range for infrared. Infrared range 0.7 micro to 1000 micro or 0.1 mm. Here infrared means we are going to transfer the data by using infrared signals. Okay, broken into near, mid and far range. That means the infrared region, infrared communication is divided into 3 types. One is a near communication, near infrared. One is mid infrared. Another one is a far infrared. Like this we have 3 methods or 3 types. Infrared radiation is used in industrial, scientific and medical application. This is the applications. These are the application we are using. There we are using infrared communication method. Another one of the application they given here, night vision device. You know about this night vision device using active near infrared illumination allow people or animals to observe without the observer being detected. In the night we can't detect any human eye can't detect any animals or humans, other humans. At that time we are going to use this infrared method, infrared illumination. We are going to take this to detect other animals or humans, night vision. So this is helpful for night vision. Infrared is helpful for night vision devices. We have a lot of night vision devices we are using in military applications, and many of the other application also we are using this night vision devices. Next we are going to another popular wireless communication, that is a Bluetooth. Bluetooth is a wireless technology standard for short distance for exchanging data. In order to exchange the data, and we are using Bluetooth, but here wireless, one is wireless, another one short distance. We can transfer the data in short distance. That is another thing. Bluetooth device transmitted data in packets. That entire data is divided in small packets, and packet by packet data is transmitted from sender side to receiver side, and transmit each packet on one of 79 designated Bluetooth channels. If you are going to use Bluetooth, there are 79 designated channels. Different channels are there. In that channel, packets is transferred to receiver, and each channel bandwidth is also given 1 megahertz. So 79 channels are there. 79 megahertz is the bandwidth in that particular device. Bluetooth is a packet based protocol with master slave structure. Again here master slave structure is there. Master will give command, slave will respond for that command. One master may communicate with up to 7 slaves in a piconet. All the device share the master clock, because this is synchronous. Okay, it is synchronous, so master clock is required, clock signal is required. Another one here they given 7 slaves we can connect. One Bluetooth connection means one master can connect 7 slaves at a time with the clock signal. Another popular thing is Wi-Fi, that is wireless fidelity. Full name is wireless fidelity. Wi-Fi is the name of the popular wireless networking technology that uses radio waves. We are using radio waves in Wi-Fi to provide wireless high-speed internet and network connection. In the Wi-Fi we are getting high-speed internet, and it is a popular wireless technology. Wi-Fi intended for network communication, and it supports internet protocol, IP based communication. IP address of the Wi-Fi, you are thinking about that IP address. So this internet protocol, IP means internet protocol based communication we are going to perform in Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi based communication require an intermediate agent called Wi-Fi router, Wi-Fi access point to manage the communication. Wi-Fi based communication require one Wi-Fi router. In order to communicate or in order to use Wi-Fi, you know, wherever you are using, there we have Wi-Fi routers in order to transfer your data or network. The Wi-Fi router is responsible for restricting the access to the network. There we have one big network. Your user, you are going to access for that network. You want to access that network. So there restriction is there. The router will restrict that. How? Assigning a IP address to the device on the network. That means the IP address we have to put. Otherwise, we can't access that Wi-Fi network. Routing data packet to the intended device on the network. In order to routing the data packet also we need IP. In order to access, finally we can tell that line as, in order to access that Wi-Fi, we need Wi-Fi routers. That Wi-Fi router will restrict your accessing. So we need IP address for that in order to access that network. A Wi-Fi network is identified with service set identifier. You can see SSID. When you are going to connect Wi-Fi, we need SSID. SSID full form is service set identifier. A Wi-Fi device can connect to the network by selecting the SSID of the network and by providing the credential if network is security enabled. That means password also. Sometimes the Wi-Fi having passwords. If you know that password, then only you can access that Wi-Fi network. And SSID is another ID. We need that for Wi-Fi connections. How you will get SSID? You can see that by in your laptop. Just open your command line, that is command window. There we are getting many things, IP address of your laptops or SSID of your laptop. Many things we are getting here in the run command or command line. Just you can type command CMD in the start window or menu, then you will get this SSID, IP address or other many IDs of your laptop you can see in that screen command window. Wi-Fi network implement different security mechanism for authentication of data transfer. Security mechanisms, that is many mechanism they are using for security purpose. Wireless equivalency protocol. I think you've seen this term in your mobile or in your laptop while connecting your Wi-Fi. WEP, wireless equivalence protocol is the full form of that. Another term you've seen, I think, WPA, that is wireless protected access, are the sum of the security mechanism, that are the security mechanism supported by the Wi-Fi for communication purpose. So I think you've seen this WEP and WPA in your mobiles or laptops. Another very important thing, this is the wireless communication, ZigBee. ZigBee is an IEEE 802.15.4 based specification for suite for high level communication protocol used to create personal area networks with small, that is the thing, small low power digital radios, such as for home automation applications, medical device, data collection and other low power bandwidth needs, designed for small scale project which needs wireless connection. This is the entire thing is definition for ZigBee. ZigBee is low power. It uses low power, low data rate, data transfer rate is very low, and close proximity wireless ad hoc network. Ad hoc network, this is a very important thing you are going to study in coming semester, ad hoc network. Here close proximity. What is close proximity? Personal area. That means in small area we can use ZigBee. Very small area we can use ZigBee. We can't communicate devices with larger distance. The technology defined by ZigBee specification is intended to simpler and less expensive than other wireless personal area network such as Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Somewhat simpler and less expensive. ZigBee is simpler and less expensive compared to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. But one small drawback is proximity. That means only small area we can use that. In the small devices or kits we can use that ZigBee. ZigBee coordinator, ZigBee router, ZigBee and device. That are the three things we have in the ZigBee. Let us see this diagram. ZigBee coordinators ZC, ZigBee routers ZR, ZigBee end device is ZED. ZigBee coordinator ZC is responsible for initiating the ZigBee network and it has capability to store information about the network. That is a ZigBee coordinator. You can see this. This is capability to store information about the network. But what about ZR? That is a ZigBee router, responsible for passing the information from device to another device. One device to another device. Your ZED, one device, another device ZED, that is information is passing through ZR. ZigBee end device means this is ZED, functionality for data communication, that is for data communication. It can talk only with ZR and ZC. ZED can't talk each other, it can talk only with ZR or ZC. And doesn't have any capability to act mediator for transferring the data from one device to another device. We can't take it as mediator. ZR we can take it as mediator, but ZED we can't take it as mediator. Just for information pass one device to another device communication we are using ZR, but here this functionality for data communication we are using ZED, but here condition is given capability to act as a mediator. Doesn't have capability, okay, doesn't having capability to act as a mediator for transferring the data. Another one thing, ZigBee support operating distance. That means it operates distance level is given 100 meter maximum at a rate of maximum 250 kbps. Only 250 kbps internet is that means speed, and 100 meter distance we can use that ZigBee. Then we are going for general packet radio service, GPRS. General packet radio service is in packet oriented mobile data service on 2G and 3G cellular communication, now 4G also. Communication system, global system for mobile communication. GPRS usage is typically charged based on volume of data transfer. That you are using now data pack. Based on how much volume you use data, based on that charge is there. And we are using 2G, 3G. This GPS we are using in our mobiles. So this is about our today class. Thank you.